Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is starry skies and sweet smiles, or alternatively, edgelords are tamed by the power of love and oblivious dorks in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 1. If asked, most people would blame Claude. If Claude were the one being asked, he would blame Byleth for giving him the idea. But, things such as assigning blame were meaningless in the grand scheme of love, right? Of course, it didn't start out as an attempt at matchmaking. It came when a particular set of phrases in one of the new professor's lectures just happened to stick out to Claude in the midst of a mundane Monday midday lesson. Surveillance isn't just sneaking around in the shadows. Sometimes, surveillance is heading down to the pub and paying a few drunkards to cough up what they know, or, perhaps, hiding yourself amongst them to see it with your own eyes. The professor immediately added that it required some degree of acting, or, in the place of genuine acting skills, being an actual drunkard. Claude, being the shrewd guy he was, immediately picked up on the implications. Sometimes, the best way to spy was to hide in plain sight. And what better to hide than to act as you always had? Giddy at the new prospect, Claude began to scheme. First, as was necessary for many plans, was a test run, just to iron out the kinks. With a tiny bit of manipulation, truth-twisting, and feline persuasion, he set in place a series of events that led Hilda to be stuck weeding the monastery by herself. More specifically, the grass near the Blue Lion's classroom. Claude's reasons were entirely pragmatic. Put short, he had a feeling Hubert would instantly murder them for going near Edelgard. For justifiable reasons. So the Blue Lions were their best bet for a trial run of surveillance. Hilda, despite complaining, was actually up for it, despite complaining about the work involved. Loudly. Loud enough that Dmitri came out of the classroom to see who was making all those groaning sounds. "Are you all right? I heard some pained noises," he asked, in the most chivalrous of ways. "Oh, Your Highness!" Hilda exclaimed, putting on a bright smile. "It's nothing. I'm just weeding the grounds. Doing my part." "Is that so? Then, why have you stayed right by the doors for so long, and made all that noise?" Dmitri asked. Not even in an accusatory manner, he was just genuinely confused. "Well, I'm terribly weak," Hilda said, improvising her ass off. "When I went along with that mission to subdue those bandits, I got injured. I really am too delicate to trust with these things." Now, Hilda meant this in an exaggerated attempt to excuse her laziness, but Dmitri was in a different class. He didn't know her well enough to think she was just being lazy. Instead, he came to a different conclusion. "Say no such things about yourself," Dmitri exclaimed. "Receiving an injury in battle does not mean that you are weak. Rather, is it not that you are strong enough to be hurt and continue going on?" If you require aid, I will gladly help you," Dmitri offered. "So please, don't degrade yourself." Hilda was fairly certain Dmitri had misunderstood, but also, he was offering to help. So, quite naturally, she tried to convince him to do all the work. "Is your injury really so severe?" Dmitri asked in concern. "Should I escort you to the sickbay? There might be some clerics that can look you over." "And no, it's fine. It's just some aching. You know, muscle fatigue," Hilda attempted. "I'm just worried about overexerting myself. Ruining my axe arm. Gotta take care of your body, right?" "Yes, that's right." Hilda privately snickered to herself, delighted to have found such a great, naive, guy to help her out, do everything for her. "But, should you grow accustomed to overcompensating for your injury, it will only lead to you having a more difficult time recovering. Please, even if you must go slowly, I must ask that you try." Dmitri looked at Hilda expectantly. She awkwardly shuffled over and pulled one weed. "Delightful. Now, on to the next one. Hold on, don't rush me. Let's take our time, nice and slow." Dmitri nodded, thinking she was a cautious person. "Really, why are you doing this alone in the first place?" he asked. "Well, the person who was supposed to help me had something come up," Hilda said. "It was technically true. Ish. And you decided to work anyways." Well, I had to, since I wanted to spy too. Your dedication is astounding. Hilda let out an awkward laugh, because she didn't want to disappoint the guy by telling him the truth. Enough about me, let's talk about you. Hilda exclaimed. I mean, your kindness is even more astounding, you know? The prince of the kingdom is such a nice guy that he helps a girl he doesn't even know without thinking, and even tries to make her feel better about herself, even if you completely misunderstood. Isn't that incredible? You're like a knight from a fairy tale. No, it's all right. Anyone would do what I did. No, they wouldn't, Hilda countered immediately. Half the people in my house would not do what you did. Huh. I mean, Claude would help, sure, but he would tease you the whole time and try to use it as a favor over you later. And Lysathea would scold you for being so inefficient before saying she ought to do it all herself. And then Lawrence. Dimitri was transfixed by how energetic she became while talking about her friends. Even as she was complaining, he could undoubtedly feel the affection behind her words. With a slight smile, he helped her work, but, since she was so worked up, she didn't even notice how she was doing most of the work. What do you mean, it ended with you giving him information? Claude asked incredulously. That is literally the opposite of what spying is supposed to do. It's not my fault he's like a puppy who immediately tries to help their human, Hilda stated. Okay, I guess this was a bust, Claude said, sighing. Ah well. I still got plenty of other plans. Unbeknownst to Claude, the plan he thought was a failure was actually one of his most successful ones. He just didn't know it yet, and he wouldn't find out until much later. Chapter 2. The next time they met, it's not by some grand sweeping scheme, by either Claude's hand or the goddess. Really, it's pretty much expected that, as students of the same school, they would pass by each other or run into each other sometimes. Especially considering that people tended to use the training hall. In particular, people who actually took their training seriously. And, well, even if Hilda wasn't one of said people, she had the duty of sorting out the weapons. Ugh. Of course she planned on slacking off. Forget that she was only assigned the duty alone as a punishment for being lazy. Laziness was eternal. So, when Hilda spotted Dimitri, hacking away at a straw dummy, she saw him as her saving grace. He was so earnest and willing to help last time, so why not try her hand again? Couldn't hurt to ask. Eyeing Didu in the corner warily, Hilda planned out her move. She could go the, oh no, I'm injured, route again, but after a week, he might say that she had already recovered enough to do it on her own. Your Highness, it seems that she's staring at you. Oh, but he didn't think much of the delicate flower act, either. He might give her another pep talk, and then persisting would just break his little puppy heart. Excuse me, are you all right? Gah! Hilda screamed, stunned by Dimitri suddenly being in her face. Yup. Yup, totally fine. Yeah. Are you sure? Dimitri asked. Oh, yeah. I was just, impressed. Hilda lied, putting on an awkward smile. You were working so hard. It was impressive. I could never do what you do, put so much effort into training, Nonsense, anyone could achieve results through hard work. Dimitri reassured her. Ah, you're so optimistic. Hilda said, not even sure whether she was praising him or complaining. Dimitri took this as another sign that she was being insecure and unsure of her own effort. If you aren't too busy, would you like to train with me? Dimitri intended this as a genuine, sincere attempt to show her that she was capable of greatness. Hilda, however, saw this as the perfect opportunity she was hoping for. If you don't mind. I won't take up too much of your time, she said demurely. Just one sparring match. Her plan was simple. She would lose to Dimitri, claim that her injuries prevented her from helping maintain the weapons, and then, she could genuinely convince Dimitri she was a weakling. Then, he would stop trying to convince her she was something greater. It was a plan on par with any of Claude's. Unfortunately, Hilda hadn't realized something that would ruin all of her plans. For one thing, Dimitri was freakishly strong. Insanely, weirdly, terribly strong. strong enough that he could shatter a sword if he tried too hard. This wasn't the thing that ruined everything. The thing that ruined everything was the fact that Dmitri had taught himself to not completely destroy people's skulls during a sparring match. This was a problem, because it meant Dmitri was holding back during the sparring match. While blocking her wide axe swings with the hilt of his training spear, while stabbing at her, while charging forward, he was holding back. And he couldn't very well kick Hilda's ass while holding back, now could he? Hilda needed him to fight with everything he had. For the sake of slacking off. Swinging at him wildly, Hilda knew what she had to do. Dmitri jabbed at her, catching the axe by handle. He flicked his wrist, sending her weapon flying through the air. Now, let's. Hilda didn't get to hear what he was going to say after that, because, just then, she moved. To punch him in the face. The rationale here was, well, they were trained in weaponry. Not many were trained in unarmed combat, therefore, forcing Dmitri to use unarmed combat would make him more likely to abandon strategy and just, punch her really hard. There was another problem, though. Hilda didn't realize it, but she was freakishly strong. She thought that Dmitri would be able to shrug off a punch from her easily, leading to the scene where he dropped his spear and kicked her ass. But, what really happened was this. Dmitri raised his other arm to block the strike, the punch hitting him in the forearm. And then Didu came in and separated them while silently furious. Hey, what gives? The fight isn't over until someone, ideally me, is on the ground. Hilda protested. His Highness' arm is broken, Didu shot back, glaring. It is. Hilda asked. It is. Dmitri echoed. Didu looked something akin to an unholy fusion of baffled, exasperated, and concerned as he wordlessly gestured to Dmitri's arm. Hey, was your arm always like that? Hilda asked quietly. I do not recall that to be the case, Dmitri said as they both stared at his arm. Didu took in a deep breath. Your Highness. Please rest. I will call for a healer immediately. Then, he turned towards Hilda. Hilda paled at the furious expression on his face. Leave at once, he ordered, before I am forced to repay the favor twofold. Hilda didn't need to hear it twice. Scurrying away, she left before Dmitri could even ask her to wait. Hilda managed to get out of maintaining the weapons, but, she didn't want it to be like this. She felt horrible that her attempt at slacking off led to that. She had to make it up to him. She wouldn't be able to live with herself if she didn't. Making up her mind, Hilda swore to do whatever it took to repay Dmitri. Dmitri made his way back to his room, successfully healed. His arm was a bit sore, but he was rather alright overall. He didn't see why Didu made such a big deal out of it. He hoped he didn't scare that girl off. When he opened the door, he found a letter slid underneath the crack. Dear Dmitri. I am so sorry for breaking your arm. I really didn't mean to. If there's anything I can do to help you while you're recovering, just say the word, okay? I'll bring some pain-killing potions for you as soon as I can. Hilda. Dmitri couldn't really understand the paper. He held it in his hand, felt the paper against his skin, smelled the scent of ink, saw the eyes dotted with hearts and all, but it seemed to him that everyone was exaggerating the whole thing a lot. But still. Hilda, so that's your name, he muttered to himself, looking over to his desk. Well, it wouldn't do to not leave a reply. Chapter 3. Dear Hilda. Please do not worry for my sake. I have healed perfectly. Should be ready to get back to training in 1 or 2 days, nothing to worry about. You don't have to help me with anything, though I would appreciate the potions. Dmitri. Dear Dmitri. No. I am going to make it up to you, whether you like it or not. P.S. Take a spoonful every morning. I included some sweets since the medicine tastes really gross. Hilda. Dear Hilda. You really don't have to. Don't feel obligated to. P.S. Thank you for the potions, by the way. They're very helpful. Dmitri. Dear Dmitri. Yes, I do have to. Because I feel really bad about it. No protesting. P.S. Glad they helped. I got more where that came from if you run out. Hilda. Dear Hilda. If you insist. I'll tell Didu he can stop being so wary of you. P.S. No, that's all right. One bottle is enough. Dimitri. Dear Dimitri. Great. I'll be helping you out then. See you tomorrow. Hilda. Wait a moment, Hilda called out. Are you uncomfortable? Dimitri asked, quill pausing against parchment. The two of them were in the library, seated opposite each other at one of the tables. Dimitri was finishing up a report due in one of his classes. Hilda, however, was doing nothing. Which was a problem, for once. No, but, seriously, do you really need someone to watch over you as you work? Isn't that just an excuse for me to stand around and look pretty? Well, Didu is absent, so I felt lonely. That was when Hilda snapped. Absent? She echoed incredulously, smacking the table in a burst of anger. The table shuddered. He's been watching from behind that pillar the entire time. Hilda screamed as she pointed in the direction of someone badly hiding behind a pillar. And besides, I felt lonely. Can't you at least come up with a better lie? Something like, oh, since Didu is busy watering the plants, I need someone else to protect me from assassination. Hilda. It's completely obvious that you're just humoring me. When you were feeding the horses, my job was to pat their faces. When you were carrying ingredients to the kitchen, you gave me 2 oranges to carry. When you were cleaning your room, all I did was dust one shelf. Please settle down. No. Because I told you, I feel really bad about accidentally hurting you. Hilda exclaimed. I want to make it up to you. So please, just take me seriously. Excuse me, Tomash cut in. You are aware that this is a library, right? Aw crap, Hilda said simply. And then she got kicked out of the library. Dimitri followed after her, his report safely entrusted to Didu. Are you quite all right? Dimitri asked, before getting an idea. If it helps, I've also been asked to sort the weapons. We could do that if you wish. Now, what Hilda didn't know was that Dimitri had been deliberately taking on more and more tasks to satisfy her. However, Dimitri felt bad asking her to do a lot when he was perfectly capable of doing the task himself, so he got her to do the bare minimum. So, Hilda legitimately thought that Dimitri was an insane workaholic who didn't know restraint. Forget it. You need a break. Hilda declared. There's nothing better than a break after doing something. Huh. Oh, we could go shopping, or take a nap on the grass somewhere, or make something, or go out to eat. Hilda then paused, realizing that all of those were things she liked to do. Hey, Dimitri. What do you want to do? Her calling him by his first name was more of a slip-up than anything. Being in the same house as Claude meant that she was pretty used to being relaxed with formalities and titles, so she often had to remind herself that people from other houses sort of expected her to use those. It was a good thing that, when she slipped up, it was when she was with the guy who didn't want his classmates to treat him like royalty, but couldn't quite get any of them to do it. I'm all right with whatever you prefer, he answered, too stunned by Hilda calling him by his name to put too much thought into whatever he was saying. Great. Let's go. Smiling, Hilda began to lead him away from the library. Hey, did you eat lunch yet? No. Then let's stop by a restaurant in town. Dimitri paused to process what she was saying, then smiled. All right. Let's go. Hilda's smile turned even brighter. I mean, I know the dining hall is great and all, she said as they descended the stairs, but sometimes, you need to explore. Have fun. All sorts of stuff. Is that so? Dimitri asked. A group of passers-by in the corridor led to them sticking a bit closer together as they walked. Yeah, it is so. Hilda answered. You only have one life, so you can't just spend it all working. You have to have fun sometimes, you know. Dimitri stayed silent, thinking of how selfish it would be to do something like that. That silence worried Hilda, so she paused a bit before opening the reception hall's doors. You really do have to remember your limits, Hilda said. or you'll destroy yourself. Now, she meant this in a "don't overexert yourself" sort of way. However, Dmitri had been thinking of revenge. So her words came off as an ominous, almost prophetic warning about his future. Before he could ask what she meant and possibly clear up the misunderstanding, Hilda opened the door. The noise of the crowded reception hall completely destroyed his chance to ask. "Hey, what do you think of the new professor?" Hilda asked suddenly, her expression back to an easy smile. "Huh? Professor Byleth?" Dmitri asked. "Yep. We've only had a few classes together, but they seem pretty interesting, right?" "Yes, they do," Dmitri said. "I didn't expect a mercenary to make a good teacher, but unexpectedly, they're good at commanding attention, huh? They do have a commanding aura. It's admirable. What's really incredible is their aim. Whenever someone seemed distracted, they would break off a piece of chalk and throw it right at their desk. I think my desk is permanently chalky now. I'm suddenly worried for my class. Will we be all right?" No, as long as you're not nodding off, it should be fine, probably. Probably. Now, they were walking through the reception hall at the time. Even though they were absorbed in their conversation, the other people were still there. People such as Dimitri's childhood friends. Which totally wasn't a thing that could end badly ever. Shush. Anyways, by the time Hilda and Dimitri actually reached town, their conversation had went from discussing who in their classes was most likely to get chalked to who would stand the most chance of blocking a chalk. Ingrid has very fast reflexes, which then got derailed into a conversation about things they admired about their classmates. Marianne won't ever admit it, but she's plenty devoted. I just wish she knew that none of us would hate her for anything, fashion. The reason was, well, in the middle of asking if the Annette in Dimitri's class was the same redhead who set the kitchen on fire with Professor Byleth, Hilda got distracted by a passing man's outfit. Dimitri didn't get what was so bad about it, which got Hilda into a whole tirade about how colors needed to work together, and bright orange doesn't work with that green. And how accents needed to not be eye-searingly ugly. Hilda was in the middle of explaining just how she could improve the ensemble, when she stopped herself. Sorry. I just kinda got worked up over nothing. I make accessories as a hobby, so. She trailed off, embarrassed. Do not worry about it, Dimitri said simply. It was fun. Hilda paused, staring at him as they kept walking. Then, lips curling into a smile, she said, "Thanks. Ingrid. I have big news," Ash announced, rushing into the hall. "Ash. I've been waiting to tell you some news too," Ingrid replied, happily going over to him. Felix stared at them flatly, while Sylvain seemed to find this amusing. Okay, you go first," Ash said. "All right, so I was sitting with Sylvain and Felix in here, when we saw His Highness talking casually with a girl from the Golden Deer." Ash gasped. "With pink hair?" "Yeah." "How did you know?" Ingrid demanded. "Because I was with Annette and Mercedes, grabbing crepes from this store in town, when we saw His Highness and this girl from another class leaving the food place next door." "No way." "She was complaining that he paid for the food while she was distracted, so she has to pay for one of his meals one day to make up for it. I'm so proud of him. He might actually get a date. As his childhood friend, I need to support him," Ingrid declared. "I'll help you out," Ash added. "Oh bother," Felix said irritably. "Don't talk like you won't let yourself get dragged into it," Sylvain said bluntly. "Shut up." Chapter 4. The birds were singing, the sun was shining, and Ingrid and Ash were completely and totally at a fucking loss. "You know His Highness well enough." Ash started off, hunched over with his elbows to his knees on the courtyard bench. "But that girl, we don't know anything about her," Ingrid finished off with a sigh next to him. "Are we really going to be defeated here?" Ash asked. "Before we even try. What are we supposed to do? It's strange to approach her so abruptly, and we can't just say we want you to romance His Highness, right? If only there were someone we could ask for help with this kind of strange scheme," Ash said wistfully. "Hey there," Claude said, showing up out of nowhere. Ash screamed at the sudden scare, making Claude smirk. It seems like you're doing something interesting. Mind if I join in? Wow, it seems like we've been running into each other a lot recently, huh? Hilda noted with a smile. It seems so, Dmitri replied. She had been walking by the hedges near the tea tables, when she heard rustling in the leaves. When she saw the blonde head poke out, she thought it was a pervert, only for it to be Dmitri. He was just stuck in the bushes. Need a hand? It would be much appreciated, Dmitri said. Hilda pulled him out, asking, what did you get yourself into this time? Well, a classmate of mine needed help catching a cat that had stolen something important from him. Dmitri answered. And 2 days ago, it was a girl who needed help sorting the shelves, and last Thursday, a guy who was looking for the extra arrows, and before that, someone who lost a shirt in the wind. Hilda said, before adding, you really are a nice person, you know. No, anyone would try to help out if they were asked, Dmitri replied. Too humble, too. Now, Dmitri hadn't explained to Hilda that it was Ash and Ingrid every time, because if he had, she would have gotten worried he was being taken advantage of. Instead, Hilda thought it was a different person each time. She had developed the impression that Dmitri was so well known for his kindness that everyone in his class asked him for help. And, combined with her previous theory that he was an insane workaholic prince who didn't know restraint. Well, he kind of reminded her of a loyal puppy doing his best to please everyone, but more than that, he came off as a guy in desperate need of a break. So, each time she ran into him, she took it upon herself to give him one. I'll help you out, so in exchange, spend some time with me. Those were the magic words she had come up with to get him to agree with anything she offered. Dmitri didn't seem like the type to like abandoning something he was asked to do just to hang out, so instead of just asking him to flat out stop, Hilda tried to lighten his load before helping him completely de-stress. That way, it wasn't too draining on either of them, and then she could even slack off with a friend. Dmitri, however, thought that these words, combined with her preoccupation on repaying him for his arm, were a nagging reminder of his mission to repay blood with more blood. What do you have in mind this time? Hilda paused. They had already went out in town so many times, it was sort of getting stale, and she was running out of easy conversation topics like assignments and Professor Byleth doing weird things and classmate gossip. Ah, screw it, she muttered to herself, before raising her voice to address him, let's just figure it out when we get there, okay? All right. Hilda and Dmitri went off, looking for the cat in question. Hey, what kind of cat is it? Hilda asked. Gray, with a white underbelly and darker spots. It should have a ghost-repelling charm with it. Oh, so like that cat with the necklace Professor Byleth is holding over there, Hilda said, pointing. Yes, like that cat. Wait. Ah. Professor. Hilda tried to call out, right before Byleth rounded the corner of the hedges. After them. Dmitri ordered. Aye aye, Captain. Dmitri rushed after the professor, Hilda following behind him, but, when they turned the corner. Huh. Where did they go? It's like they disappeared into thin air. Hilda gasped in awe. You there? Dmitri demanded, pointing at a passing knight. Did you see where the professor went? I'd say near the dining hall, the knight replied. They said something to themselves about eating lunch with some students, but, in all honesty, they moved so fast it seemed like they just up and disappeared. The new professor? Casper repeated, confused. In the dining hall. Yeah, they just left. Got me and Linhard a great meal and then went off to the greenhouse or something, I think. Professor Byleth. The gardener paused. They went to answer confessional letters in the chapel. They went to help their father with something, I think. Weren't they in the training hall? I saw them just now, fishing up the entire lake. They just left. Hilda and Dmitri were left panting in the courtyard by the end of their chase. How can anyone move that fast? Hilda asked in fear. Professor Byleth is human, right? Completely exhausted, Hilda flopped onto the grass without a care in the world. Dmitri crouched down by her side to rouse her, when a cat appeared to crawl over Hilda's chest. Gray, with a white underbelly and darker spots. Held between teeth was a charm hanging from a thin chain. Dmitri paused at the sight. "Hey there, little guy," Hilda greeted the cat happily, patting his head with a smile. "What you got there?" The cat purred, nuzzling into Hilda's palm. "To think, he'd show up right when we stopped for breath," Dmitri said, sitting down next to Hilda. "Must have had a fun time leading us around with the professor, huh?" Hilda asked, giving the little fluffball more attention and pets. Then, she addressed a question to Dmitri. "Hey, does this mean the professor is like a cat?" "I can see it," Dmitri admitted. "Elusive, aloof, distant. And loves fish, apparently. I'd hate to see what they'd do to the competition in a fishing tournament." Hilda laughed in response, her hands going to her face for a brief moment. The cat decided that this was extremely unacceptable, and head-butted her in the chin to get more love. "Hey!" Hilda cried out in response. Her answer was a meow, causing the necklace to fall from the cat's mouth and onto Hilda. But, the movement of her arms as she pet caused the necklace to slide off her body and onto the grass. "The cats at the monastery seem rather spoiled," Dmitri noted, picking up the necklace and tucking it in his pocket to return later. "Yep," Hilda agreed. "They sit around doing nothing, get gifts and affection, and never have to worry about anything. Isn't that amazing? I want to be just like that." "Yes, it's amazing, that they can grow up without worrying about hunger or cold." "Ha, I never would have expected it, but we're unexpectedly alike in the kind of goals we set, huh?" Hilda asked. Dmitri thought that Hilda was implying that she also wanted to end inequalities that led to poor people starving and freezing to death, and nodded. Not that Hilda was opposed to the idea, it was just not at all what she was saying. So Hilda, thinking that Dmitri was lowering his walls and exposing his vulnerabilities, that he was quietly admitting that, sometimes, he did actually want to relax. Well, she couldn't resist the urge to help him. Scooping up the tiny cat in her hands, she sat up. "Wanna pet him, Dmitri?" she asked, holding the kitty out to him. The cat looked around, enjoying being held. "Huh? Pat the cat? You wanna? Wait, would I be able to? Without hurting him?" "What are you talking about?" Hilda asked. "You just have to be gentle and careful, right?" "But, I'm not very good at controlling my strength," Dmitri admitted. "It's rather embarrassing." Hilda interpreted this as, "I have never pet a cat successfully before and I am terrified of screwing it up. Please help me." So, Hilda decided to demonstrate. Hilda patted Dmitri on the head with one hand, the other devoted to the cat. "You focus on how it feels, okay?" Hilda instructed him. "You should try and use about this much strength." Dmitri's cheeks reddened as he focused on her touch. Her warm hand eventually stopped and returned to her side, so Dmitri knew that it was time. Cautiously, Dmitri lifted up his hand. Hilda smiled at the sight. Slowly, carefully, Dmitri patted the cat on the head. He retreated instantly, trying to verify that he didn't leave any bruises or anything. Hilda had no idea that he once dislocated Sylvain's shoulder by clapping him on the back too hard once, and thus took this caution as a bit over the top, but still kind of cute, awkward, and endearing. "Good job," she said earnestly. "You did great. It's nothing to be praised for, really." Hilda laughed. "Then, wanna practice on me or something? I love getting head pats." "No, that's quite alright," Dmitri exclaimed. He could have sworn that both Hilda and that cat were laughing at him. But even so, it felt fun. Chapter 5. With a loud yawn, Hilda locked her bedroom door behind her as she went into the hallway. She absolutely didn't want to go to class. "Oh. Hilda." The voice behind her made her pause and turn. "Good morning," Dmitri greeted her with a smile. "Morning," Hilda replied, grinning. "Wanna walk to class together?" "Of course," Dmitri said, and they fell into step alongside each other. Having everything so close to each other is really convenient. You can get to class in minutes no matter how late you wake up," Hilda exclaimed happily. Do you often wake up late? Dmitri asked. No, Hilda said, like a lying liar who lied. Do you? No, I do my best to be punctual, Dmitri said. Heh, you're so responsible. Hilda exclaimed. For a brief second, she remembered how she was practically the exact opposite. The thought made her glance over at Dmitri, wondering how others would see them. The lazy girl and hard-working prince, huh? So tall. Hilda noted as they descended the stairs. Hey, what's your class's mission this month? Hilda asked. We've been assigned to protect a group of merchants, Dmitri answered. We'll be escorting them to a nearby village to sell their wares. On horses and stuff? Hilda asked. Dmitri nodded. And your class? Patrolling the town, Hilda replied. I think it's to protect it from bandits? But, it's not like a bandit attack happens every day. Even so, it never hurts to be cautious. Yeah, I guess so, Hilda said. But still. Hilda didn't get to say it before they made it to their classrooms. The pair stopped before the doors. Well, see you later, Hilda said with a smile. Yes, have a nice time in class. You mind lowering your standards a bit? Just a little? Please. Dmitri laughed, and Hilda laughed with him before they went their separate ways. Chapter 6. In the dining hall, a table was lined with steak, ribs, and various other meals, prepared not by the staff, but by a pair of students. Wow! You're really just handing these out? Raphael gasped at the mouth-watering sight. Mercedes smiled up at him, Dida standing by her side with an impassive expression. Well, Dida was kind enough to help me cook, but there were a lot of leftovers that we couldn't finish. Would you like some? Don't mind if I do. Hilda eyed them from her seat. She was spotted by Dmitri while moving to sit, and after their initial greetings, it just felt natural to settle into the seat across from him. Huh, is that where Dida was these past few days? Hilda asked. It was a real shock to me when I didn't feel him staring at the two of us. Yes, well, Mercedes suddenly got the idea of making meat pie from someone, and Dida simply had to stop her from sticking ribs in a pie crust. Apparently, they got carried away. Oh, yeah, was this right after the mock battle? 'Cause, after we got beaten up by the Black Eagles, Raphael went into town to grab some comfort food, and came back raving about this place's meat pies to anyone who would listen. Is that so? Maybe they had a chat about it, then. Yep, I can totally see Claude tricking Raphael into talking to Mercedes just to get him off his back. Hilda said, nodding to herself as she grinned. All mysterious and scheme-why. How about we settle on persuasive, okay? Claude asked from behind Hilda. Yeah, okay, but scheming is fine, right? Hilda asked. Of course. Dmitri decided not to question Claude just appearing from nowhere. Hello there, Claude, Dmitri greeted. Hey, princely pal. Claude replied in turn, casually sliding into the chair beside Hilda. It's fancy seeing you here. I didn't know you were quite so friendly with our little diva here. Diva? You should have said princess, Hilda replied. You're right, you're right. You are clearly a princess of the holy kingdom of laziness. Did you have a reason for coming here, Claude? Dmitri asked bluntly. Of course I do. I'm here to check on my friend, right, Hilda? Hilda rolled her eyes. He's either here to bug us or to scheme. Or both, really. Ouch, you have no faith in me. Claude said exaggeratedly. Does your track record show a reason to have much faith in you? Dmitri asked bluntly. Now that I think about it, Claude's track record of schemes, hey, it goes without saying, right? Hilda asked in return, sending Dmitri a bright smile. Yes, I do believe so, Dmitri agreed. Claude burst out laughing in response to their teasing. Hilda wound up snickering behind the back of her hand as she tried not to accidentally stab herself with her cutlery. Dmitri was smiling a bit more as well. Well, feel free to visit the Golden Deer classroom whenever you want, all right? Claude offered with a smile. A friend of my friend is a friend, so you're welcome anytime. Thank you, Dmitri replied. Hey, maybe our houses could be friends, Claude said simply. And then, since we're such good friends, you guys could foot the bill for a friendly get-together meal. Aha, your true intentions are revealed, Hilda said, ignoring decorum to point her fork at Claude accusingly. You just want a free meal. Guilty as charged, Claude answered. Well, our house is home to 2 decorated chefs. Dimitri noted. If Ash and Dida were to agree to it, then I would not exclude it as a possibility. Yes. Claude cheered. Free food. Did someone say food? Raphael asked, approaching rapidly. Didn't you already get enough food? Lysithea demanded irritably, trailing along after him. No, there's never enough meat, Ingrid answered, carrying a plate full of skewers. Are you done dawdling? Felix asked. Get seated. You're all taking up space. Claude grinned, before leaving his seat to let the members of the Golden Deer know that they were officially sharing a table with the Blue Lions out of totally innocent motives. As he gathered everyone together, a set of pale violet eyes watched him. In a few months, they'd start inviting the Black Eagles to their table, but for the time being, the Blue Lions and Golden Deer were rowdy enough. Chapter 7. You should have started the work the day it was assigned. Lysithea snapped, before storming off. Geez. Hilda said with a sigh. Can't anyone help a poor girl like me? And then she paused to think over her actual options. Raphael? I'd love to help and all, but I couldn't get through the work either. We could both use a hand, huh? No. Leonie and Lysithea had already rejected her, telling her that she ought to be more responsible. Lawrence? I might be able to help. Shall we discuss the matter, over some tea? No. No. She was desperate, but not that desperate. Marianne? Yes, of course, if the work of someone like me is any good, then I'd rather you use it. I'll replace my name with yours. Yeah, no, Hilda was morally opposed to making Marianne's self-depreciation any worse. Huh. My work. I mean, yeah, I finished it, but there's no way it's anywhere near good, sorry. Same for Ignatz. Same thing for Ignatz. And Claude? Well, I've needed a bit of help with a scheme. If someone were to do that, I'd be a lot more cooperative. Claude would do. No. I don't have any schemes. Claude replied. Lies, Hilda declared. I don't care what I have to do, if you help me. But I legitimately don't. Claude. Please. Hilda. I know this must come as a massive shock to you, but I do not spend literally every single day making some sort of plan. It's not a massive shock, because it's a massive lie. Why does no one trust you when you say you're being honest? Claude said with a sigh. Because you don't do that, Hilda shot back. Okay, fine, so I might have been stretching the truth a little, Claude admitted, but the plan right now is bare bones. Not even a concept yet. I cannot ask you to help, because it doesn't even qualify as a thing yet. Then, let me help you brainstorm. Sorry, no can do. Brainstorming's a very sensitive operation. Can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, Claude replied. Arg, fine. Hilda huffed. I'll go find someone else to help me. Have fun. Claude replied as she stormed out. He only laughed at her angry response. And then went to brainstorm a scheme with Ash and Ingrid, because of course he wanted to join in on that plan, it was bound to be hilarious. Hilda sighed, having found herself in the library. Arg, someone help me. She grumbled as she glared holes into the book. She had already ruined an entire page of parchment out of frustration. Hilda? Are you all right? A voice to her side asked. I'm about to throw this, Dimitri. Hilda paused, looking up and at the blonde standing next to her. Yes, that's me, Dimitri replied with a smile. What are you doing here? Hilda asked. Well, I wanted to review a few things. Dimitri trailed off, eyes not so subtly going to the snapped quill by her hand. How about you? Hilda paused. I forgot to do an assignment, Hilda said quietly. So, I'm trying to finish it before the class tomorrow. Would you like some help? Hilda froze. Wait, you came here to study on your own, right? Focus on yourself and your own studies first. Hilda exclaimed. Because, well, she still thought Dmitri was an insane workaholic with an insane tendency to try and help others. But, it wouldn't be right to just let a friend struggle, Dmitri said, frowning. Hilda was grimacing internally, because goddammit, his expression made it feel like she was actually trying to kick a puppy who just tried to help her, but also if she let the puppy help he might collapse from exhaustion and... Dmitri, naturally, misunderstood. I know that you can feel conflicted, because it's hard to accept help, I know and understand this, but please, feel free to rely on me, Dmitri told her. No, I refuse to do this. I cannot take advantage of you. I absolutely refuse, Hilda said simply. Hilda. I'm not backing down, Hilda declared. Then, would you like to study together? Dmitri asked. The book you're reading would be a useful review of one of my recent lectures, so it would benefit us both. Dmitri simply waited for her response. Hey, wait, are you serious? Hilda demanded loudly, because holy moly, this was the chance of a lifetime. Ahem, Tomash said. Hey, Dmitri, Hilda spoke up from their new seats in the reception hall, what's a vernacular? Weak point, I think, Dmitri replied, not even looking up from his notes. No, wait, that's a vulnerary. What? No, a vulnerary is a healing potion. The ones you gave me were vulneraries. Those were concoctions, Hilda retorted. Are they not both healing potions? No, a vulnerary is a weak point or weakness, and concoctions are the things that fix it. I'm asking about vernaculars. That was when Dmitri let out a soft "oh." I thought you said vulnerability, Dmitri said. Vernacular is spoken language. I sure hope you're right about that, Hilda replied, because I'm writing an entire paragraph on it, and it would suck if all of it was wrong. I will do my best not to lead you astray, Dmitri promised. Hilda wrote down another line, dotting her eyes with hearts. Hey, Dmitri. Yes. Thanks, Hilda said, smiling. Chapter 8. Guess who has the honor of participating in one of my schemes? Claude declared, his voice waking Hilda up from her Professor Hanneman-induced nap. Hilda made a show of looking around the empty classroom before innocently going, oh, I don't know, could you ever possibly fill me in? Hilda, Claude said simply. Could it really be anyone but you? Your charm, your wit, your ability. It would be impossible to get anything done without your help. Hilda giggled behind her hand. You're just trying to butter me up. Don't stop. Claude laughed. I could go on and on about your magnificence, but I could offer you something a bit more appealing, you know. More appealing? Than having my virtues praised without me doing anything? Hilda asked. Oh, that is a tempting offer. Just wait, it gets better. Claude claimed. Not only do you get adoration and praise, but you also get to have someone else do the work that you're supposed to be doing if you help me. You sure know what a girl wants. Hilda exclaimed. I'm in. Great. Your job is... Hilda. Dmitri said, spotting her in the courtyard, surrounded by cats. What's going on? Oh, hi Dmitri. Hilda greeted him happily in return, holding a giant fish. I ran into the professor after they got back from the fishing pond, and they handed me this. There's no way a tiny girl like me could eat it all, so I'm giving it to the cats. She neglected to mention that she had asked the professor for it, and also the fact that the fish was bait for the plan. It wasn't important. Well, I'm a bit busy, so everyone, eat your fill. Hilda ordered the cats, before she dropped the fish and ran off. The cats pounced on the meal. Dmitri felt a bit confused, but also a bit stunned by the kindness she showed the cats. He walked off before he noticed two girls walking into the scene from two different venues. Incredible, they're all so happy. Marianne noted while smiling. She went to kneel down and pet one, causing a kitten that recognized her from previous petting to meow happily. Ingrid stared in awe at the sight. She didn't even know Marianne could smile like that. It was beautiful. Then, he ran into her in the dining hall, carrying a box. "What's this?" he asked her. "Oh, it seems that a delivery of tea leaves was sent to me by mistake," Hilda replied. "I was just returning it to its rightful owner." "How noble of you," Dmitri said with a smile. "Hee, you're gonna make me blush," Hilda exclaimed. "Anyways, see you, Dmitri." She left through the doors leading to the entrance hall. From the distance put between them, Dmitri didn't hear Hilda calling the tea leaves chamomile, which caused an offended Lawrence to correct her. An intrigued Ferdinand came in and started a conversation with the fellow tea lover, making Hilda exit the scene with a sly grin. Yep. Claude's plan was sowing the seeds of romance amongst the school. And he was right. It was hilarious. "You seem very busy lately," Dmitri noted a few days later, as they were walking back to their dorm rooms together. Their steps were slow and relaxed, stretching out the walk to a comfortable pace for chatting. "I do?" Hilda asked curiously. "There was that time I ran into you in the library, and you were looking for that book of the Kingdom's Fables." Hilda remembered that. Her job was to leave it out in the open where Felix and Ash could find it. "And when you were polishing the weights so intently in the training hall." "Oh, that time where she was stalling for time to make Leonie have to carry all the weights back at once, showing off her muscles in front of an increasingly flustered Dorothea. You also prepared sweets in the kitchen with Professor Byleth the other day. To lure Lysithea, Cyril, and Annette into the same room. And how could I forget the time you were caring for the plants in the greenhouse while singing beautifully? Ah, when she was trying to lure Bernadetta and Raphael into the same place. Huh. She had pretty much gotten to everyone but Ignatz, because Claude was handling Ignatz. Something about using books that Claude was also interested in reading or something. You're right, Hilda admitted, I've been pretty busy lately, though it has been pretty fun. Don't overexert yourself, Dmitri advised her. Hilda laughed. I can't believe you're the one telling me this, Hilda said. Before Dmitri could ask what she meant and thus be told that she was actually very lazy and possibly clear up their many misunderstandings, Hilda continued. But, how come you've always been at the right place at the right time to see what I was doing? Hilda asked. Dmitri paused. Now that you say it, that is quite odd. Dmitri agreed. Hilda mulled it over for a second, before shrugging. Oh well. Maybe I was just running around so much I ran into everyone. That would make sense, Dmitri admitted. But, now that you mention it, I have been working hard. I need a break. Hilda declared, doing a complete 180 in front of the stairs to their floor. Huh. Dmitri stopped in front of her, curious about her sudden movement. You've been working hard too, right? Hilda asked with a grin. Wanna take a break together with me? Dmitri thought it over, before realizing that he was a bit ahead of his assignments and had the time. All right, where do you want to go? Oh, let's take a nap under the sun. It'll be totally relaxing. Hilda exclaimed. TT together. Dmitri demanded, blushing. Wait, wouldn't that be improper? Then, let's make sure it's somewhere no one can see and scold us. No, that's just making things worse. Hilda laughed, having had her bit of fun teasing him. Then, sit and talk with me. Dmitri let out a sigh of relief, before smiling. Gladly. The pair was chatting on one of the courtyard benches together, Hilda laughing as she shared a funny story about Professor Manuela in class. From behind a pillar, 3 heads peeked out, before retreating back in unison. It's working. Ingrid exclaimed happily. I thought it was a bit too complicated to work out, Ash admitted. I mean, we had to coordinate where to send His Highness, you had to send Hilda to different places while making her do things that brought out her good side in front of him, but, it actually worked. Claude chuckled, before ruffling Ash's hair. Have a bit more faith in me, alright? I've got a lot more where that came from. Oh yes, he thought as he eyed the two, he had a lot more romantic schemes up his sleeve. Chapter 9. Are you good at cooking? Hilda asked, watching Dmitri go about preparing the kitchen. I can follow a recipe, Dmitri replied. She had been curious about the weird sounds coming from there, when it turned out to be Dmitri frantically pacing as he flipped through the cookbook. Hilda invited herself in at the sight, sitting on a chair by the table behind Dmitri. She didn't lift a finger to help him, and he didn't ask her to. She simply watched his back as he worked on the food. Well, then, I'll be cheering for you as your emotional support. Hilda exclaimed. Good luck. Thank you, Dmitri said. I'm not quite experienced with culinary matters. Hilda watched as he set down the cookbook, awkwardly beginning to peel the potatoes. She bit back a retort about him being as awkward as he said, not wanting to break down his confidence when he, in her mind, was finally taking steps to do something he could relax doing. Don't worry, I'm sure it'll taste great. Hilda told him. Do your best. Dmitri hesitated, slowing down a bit. Go Dmitri. Hilda cheered, cupping her mouth with her hands. You don't have to keep cheering, you know, Dmitri said. He set aside the peeled potatoes, placing them in a separate bowl as he grabbed the carrots. But it's fun, Hilda said instantly. And then, almost as an afterthought, she added, plus, wouldn't you want to cheer on your friends? I would like to be a source of support for people, Dmitri admitted, though I might not be that good at it. Hilda felt her smile grow a bit bigger. Staring at his back as he kept at it, Hilda wondered what sort of cheesy, cliché line she could say to encourage him. Hey, it's fine if it's not perfect, Hilda said. Even if you mess up a little bit, people will appreciate the effort, okay? Wondering why those words seemed to dye her voice with sadness, Hilda added, so relax. It's fine. Ah. She thought, her expression darkening, isn't this something I wanted to hear when I was younger? A quiet sigh left her lips at the realization. Dmitri turned towards her, lips forming her name. But then, he set the knife down a bit too hard, chopping straight through the cutting board. Holy shit, Hilda said instantly. Dmitri instantly flushed red. Well. He fumbled about, trying to say something now that he had ruined his chance. Then Hilda remembered something. I'm not very good at controlling my strength. It's rather embarrassing. He must be so worried he screwed up. Hilda thought, and because she was someone who did her best to make sure her friends were okay and comfortable, she made a choice. Hilda got up from her chair and began walking over. Dmitri trailed off as she approached. And then passed by him. She grabbed a frying pan, then, without warning, Hilda smashed it on the table as hard as possible. Wow, these things are surprisingly low quality, huh? Hilda asked in an innocent tone, bringing her hands together in front of her chest. Shouldn't they replace them if this stuff is so fragile? Dmitri stared in shock at the broken-off handle, then looked towards the table, which fell over and collapsed into pieces of wood the moment he looked at it too hard. Now, Hilda's innocent tone was in regards to the act of deliberately breaking a frying pan. She was genuinely surprised she managed it. Not the fact that she could break a frying pan, but the fact that she had managed it so easily. Because Hilda's perception of herself prevented her from realizing how incredibly strong she was. Looks like we'll both be scolded, huh? Hilda asked casually. Let's do our best to stay out of too much trouble, okay? Why did you do that? Dmitri asked bluntly. Hilda paused. Then, she thought to a little girl, always staring at her genius older brother, always trying to reach his retreating back, always failing, always messing up, always giving up. And she smiled up at him. I can't have you getting into trouble without me if I can help it. Dmitri stared at her with an expression somewhere between baffled, concerned, and confused, when a chef came in and screamed at the mess they had made of the kitchen. Wow, it's a good thing all we have to do is replace the stuff we broke, Hilda said as the two of them went through a general store in town. She was standing by Dmitri's side as he evaluated the replacement frying pan candidates. I wonder if my charm has anything to do with it. Dmitri let out a tired sigh. Hilda paused, her happy tone dropping a bit as she asked, Hey, something wrong? Dmitri hesitated, eyes downcast as he set down the pan. Have you heard news of the revolution against the church? Dmitri asked quietly. Hilda nodded, as Dmitri went on and explained that the person leading the attack was actually Ash's adopted father. Hilda's eyes widened in horror at the news, along with just a bit of guilt that, well, Ash was just a face in the hallway to her. It was sad, but in the same way news of a tragedy far away was sad. I knew he must have been, no, he was devastated, Dmitri went on, so, I wanted to try my hand at comforting him. He likes cooking, so. He remembered Claude coming up to him and asking about Ash's sake. By the end of the conversation, Dmitri, as foolish as it was, actually thought he could manage it. Hilda looked up at Dmitri, feeling something strange well up in her. A strange mix of appreciation for his kindness, sadness that his attempt had went badly, and the feeling that she wanted to erase the sad look on his face. Hilda tugged on his sleeve to get him to look her way, then spoke. We could grab him some food while we're out. Or maybe get a professor to look over the kitchen next time. Hilda suggested with a smile. Or we could get him his own cooking supplies. Dmitri paused, eyes widening at her words. Hey, it's actually really great that we're out here. Hilda exclaimed. It means we have more options. So please, Hilda thought as she asked him what else Ash might like, don't beat yourself up over your mistakes. You're doing just fine. Huh? What is this? Ash asked, staring up at the objects lined up neatly on the table before him. We got you some candy, a book, seed packets, bow maintenance stuff, and some beef skewers, Hilda listed off the gifts casually. Professor Byleth watched over us as we cooked, so it's edible. Why? Ash asked quietly. We wanted to make sure you knew that, in this trying time, you're not alone, Dmitri said. We will stand with you. Your Highness. Hilda. Ash trailed off, before smiling. Thank you. Chapter 10. Felix was glaring. This was a normal thing that happened, to just about everyone. What differentiated this glare from every other glare was that he was glaring at a slice of cake. It wasn't even doing anything, it was just sitting on the dining table innocently, but Felix still glared at it like it had hit his cat with a carriage and hadn't apologized. Where did you get that in the first place? Ingrid asked. I thought you hated sweets. I do, Felix grumbled. No way, is it a gift for a lovely? Finish that sentence and I'll stab you, Felix declared, turning his anger from the cake to Sylvain. So, instead of a gift for someone, it's a gift from someone, and someone who doesn't know your tastes at all, at that. That was technically true, in that Felix accidentally walked in on Lysithea eating cake, which then prompted her to shove a slice at him and run. She seemed to be under the impression that it was going to convince him to keep a secret, as if he cared enough about other people to go around gossiping about them. Anyways, the reason this was important was that Felix started grumbling about the weird golden deer people, which was obviously a cue for one of said weird golden deer people to show up. Mind if I take it off your hands, then? Claude asked with a sly smile and an extra plate. One half of the cake went to Bernadetta's room with Raphael as a peace offering, while the other half went to Ash, with a clarification that it was not a gift from Felix, who did not want him to feel better, because he did not care about the gray-haired boy at all. Don't tell him anything, wink wink. Claude took a detour to drop off the plates in the washing bin and was on his way elsewhere when he got cornered in the courtyard. Good afternoon, Claude, Edelgard greeted him. Princess! Claude exclaimed dramatically, drawing everyone's eyes to them. To what do I owe the pleasure? Edelgard sighed. I have something to discuss with you, though it will have to be away from public eyes. Whoa there, Princess. That's a bit too forward for me. Maybe woo me slowly, with flowers and dinner, and then we'll talk. That's not what I... Edelgard shook her head, before her voice settled down again. Very funny, Claude. But I just want to know what you're planning. Wouldn't we all? Claude replied with a grin. Edelgard wondered why she even thought she could get a straight answer from him. Claude laughed, casually saying, but hey, if you really want to keep an eye on me so bad, why not tell your house to join in on our dining table? I bet it's pretty lonely, being the only house left out like that. And I feel so guilty about it, you know. Is this part of your plan? Edelgard asked quietly. Easy there, princess. It's eating together with pals, not wartime strategy, right? Edelgard's eyes widened. And that was when Claude spotted something behind Edelgard's back, a pair approaching at a leisurely pace. Now, if you'll excuse me. Claude trailed off, before running to the nearest bush. Huh. Wait. We're not done yet. Edelgard's attempt to chase him got her pulled into crouching behind the bush too, Claude shushing her as a pair went and sat on the bench in front of them. Edelgard was very confused, which was not helped by how distracted she was by Claude's warm hand holding hers and their close proximity. And then she heard voices. Ugh. I can't believe this school. Telling me to do a fighter test. Hilda huffed. There's no way a cute, delicate, weak girl like me could handle that. You're putting yourself down too much, Dimitri told her. You're plenty strong, Hilda. There was a quiet mumble of thanks, before Hilda asked if his class was also going through specification tests. Dimitri told her that they were, saying that he had been advised to go for a soldier class. Hilda nodded, saying that he was definitely going to be good in the part, before sighing loudly. Geez, that fuss with Lonato the month before, now midterms right before the goddess rite of rebirth, arg, why do we have to do so much? Isn't this the festival month? Festival month? I didn't hear of any such thing. Oh, didn't you hear? On the last day of the rite, the monastery is open to the public. It's like a festival. Hilda exclaimed. I see. Thank you for explaining. No problem. Hey, maybe we could all get our classmates to hang out together. Edelgard paled as she realized that she had fallen into Claude's trap. He meant for this to happen. He meant to drag her into a position where he could demonstrate that he was already well on his way to reaching his goal. His goal of building an alliance with Faerghus that could oppose the Empire if needed. His second-in-command had already wrapped the prince around her finger, and his strange actions, his prompting people to do certain things, talk to certain people, it was all the means to an end. Dimitri and Hilda left, still chattering on innocently, prompting Claude to pull Edelgard up with him. So sorry about that little inconvenience, princess, he said, because that was a genuine thing he didn't intend to happen. Claude. Yes. I will see what I can do about those dining arrangements, Edelgard stated, wearing a smile to cover up her strategizing. I look forward to eating alongside you, then, Claude replied, grinning in equal measure. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. With this, I can interfere with his plans. Sweet, now I can help the Black Eagles fall in love more easily. The two house leaders both walked away with a certain sense of satisfaction. Check the description for the links to the author.